Welcome, everybody, to the Dealmakers Institute podcast with Ace Chapman, Dealmaker Extraordinaire, and myself, Sam Leslie. Our guest today is Ernesto Diaz. He is a Dealmaker Extraordinaire as well. We are excited to interview him about his journey to becoming a dealmaker and closing an extremely creative deal. Ernesto, welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you, man. Well, I'll start this off because I vividly remember how long ago was it that we had our initial talk and you joined the program, Ernesto?
It's been about 16 months.
Yeah, so
Almost
I
a year and a half.
remember. Yeah. I remember that first call and getting an understanding of some of the things that you had going on. And then we did a kind of a follow-up call and got to hear some of the plans that you had and what you were looking to accomplish. And I remember at that point saying like, okay, I mean, really, we're going to have to aggressively pursue something that's going to be a very creative deal that will allow you to get the income that you're seeking, but not have to put up much money, and preferably no money. And, one of the things about this, and I'm always clear with folks, is when we get people in, we don't want to be one of these programs. It's like, oh, like you're going to be a millionaire. It's going to be easy. And all you got to do is learn these tricks and bam. We want to be very, very realistic. And I remember having that conversation. It's like, all right, you're going to have to kiss a lot of frogs. It's going to take some time, but it can happen. It can happen. And it's a little bit different because I remember there was another guy who started around the same time, and he was in a different scenario, and he was just like, okay, I'm coming from Goldman Sachs. I have this amount of cash. I just want to buy a business. And it was the opposite conversation. And that's why it's very vivid, where I was like, dude, like you need to be patient. Like he had a lot of cash to put down. And he was just like, it was burning a hole in his pocket. So I remember both of those where, it's like, all right, this is going to take time because that's just what it is. And with him, him having the resources, and, we did do a deal quicker than is average, but I think it's great to see in any scenario, no matter what background you come from, if you're willing to put in the work and have the patience, that's when the magic happens. And so we just had Ron, who was on the channel doing a no money paid is what it ended up being. And so excited to have you, which, having a pretty much no money out of your pocket, a business that's generating some really strong income. So let's start with the story of this deal. I'll say that you and I, before getting to this business, bought a business together. So I invested in a deal, and you're running that business. When did we close that first deal?
That was back in April 2019, almost a year ago.
Time is
Yes.
flying. It seems like we just closed that. So we closed, you got one deal under your belt, kept hustling. And yeah, let's talk about from that point to where you are now, just coming across this business and how that happened.
Yeah. So, one of the things that, like you discussed earlier, is I kept nagging you that I wanted to get something fast and I wanted it as quickly as possible. But you kept preaching, hey, you got to be patient. It's got to be the right deal for you. Just because it's right for someone else doesn't mean it's the right deal for you. So be patient. So, and then you encouraged us to continue looking at businesses, continue looking at them, just evaluate them, run them through your business candidate score sheet. And so, we continued doing that, and I did learn a ton doing that. So when I ran into this business, it was kind of like an afterthought. I mean, I was looking at some other ones just because, again, I wanted to practice and I really wanted to find one I wanted. And to be honest, it was just more of an afterthought. I just said, okay, whatever. And then I sent him an email and said, hey, can we talk about it? And I remember specifically I was at Culver's, at a restaurant called Culver's. I don't know if you guys have some where you're from, but
No.
I was in the parking lot. He called me, and so I parked my car, and we talked for about an hour. And he was about an hour away from where I live. But I after he told me a little bit about the business, I was more interested. So I was really glad that I sent that initial email just to kind of touch base and see what he had to offer, right? Because I have to evaluate each one to see if it's right for me or not.
And I want to pause you right there. And I'll pause you a couple of times in this. So one of the things that I think was both tough but good experience was, there are a couple deals that were really interesting. I remember the deal in San Diego that was really interesting, and these different opportunities that would pop up. And I'm sure you can attest to this as well, having recently gone through it yourself, Sam. It's just that emotion of getting close to a deal, being very excited about a deal, building a relationship with a seller, and then having something happen that breaks the deal apart, or realizing it's not something that's gonna work out. I don't know if you want to speak to that, Sam.
No, it sucks. 100%. I had made a trip like 9 hours, 10 hours to go see this guy. Met his wife, met him, almost met his kids. It's just super, super intimate, and it just it just wasn't meant to be. It came off the table. I saw some risks in the business that I hadn't seen before, or I didn't consider risks before, and then I thought through them. Just thinking through the Dealmakers paradigm and looking at the risks. And I asked for a risk mitigation deal point, and he pulled it off the table and never wrote back. So I'm glad. I'm glad because it gave me time to do more of this with you and with our students.
So the upside to that's kind of the rough part, but the upside is it makes you a little callous, and it makes you look at deals the way that you need to, which is like you're talking about, where you still do the work. And I think that's the tougher part, is not having the excitement, but still doing the work and going through our process. And, this was one of those cases where it's like, there's no excitement. It doesn't seem interesting. And that's the other side of what we really push you guys to do, is that's the better deal. Typically, the better deal is the one that on the surface isn't getting people excited, so nobody else is reaching out to them. And then you end up in a situation where, okay, like the same reason that nobody else is excited is probably what's going to allow this to be a big opportunity for me. So I just wanted to pause you there. So reach out to them. I think the other awesome thing that people don't take advantage of is, even when a business may be something that's online, if you can find a deal that's in a radius that you can travel to, in your case, an hour, or do like what you did, Sam, which is, hey, like I'm going to take a day or take a weekend and make a long drive to meet somebody in person. That allows this magic to happen as well. And, in that case, in your deal as well, Sam, that was a case where the multiple was under 2, or what was the?
Yeah, it was under 2, and it was a great brand.
That's where those kind of things happen. So even though you ended up walking away, like where you got the deal to even before you walked away, it was a testament to just doing that. So Ernesto, how long was it before you met with the guy after you spoke to him?
I went pretty quick. So I think it was the next Monday. So it was only like a few days, 3 or 4 days that I went out and met with him. I mean, he was only about an hour away, so it's pretty easy to get there.
Cool. And then right after that, you jumped on the phone with Sam, or when did you start trying to figure out, okay, or I guess what were your initial thoughts when you took a look at the business to think, all right, I want to make an offer on this thing?
When I went out there and I met with him and I started to get to know him a little bit, we still didn't discuss anything to do with the price. I didn't offer anything, just talk to him. So I took, your education on that, and so we just discussed that. I wanted to meet him and see if he would be a good
Good.
partner to work with. And that's when I saw, he was living with his mom. She was having some issues with Alzheimer's. So, he needed to take care of her. So he's explained that's the reason why I can't, do this business anymore, but it's a good business. I was able to look at some of the numbers on the back end of his website. He showed me the product, told me the story about it. So, I mean, I liked it. And that was after that I spoke to you and Sam.
Excellent. So now we can get to the meaty part. When you first heard about the deal, Sam, and start talking about this deal structure, because I wasn't, I'm quick to say, like, you guys pulled this off, and Ernesto pulled this off. At this point, you kind of had downloaded the information. You'd seen a ton of deals, seen other folks do deals. So how did you come up with this deal structure that you ended up putting together?
So I looked at, he wanted 60,000 for it. And it was only making about, well, after he showed me the numbers, he said it was making about 1,500 a month, but then he was paying for some other things. So we kind of trimmed it down a little bit. And I told him that this was, I think, almost a month afterwards. So after I had a few conversations with Sam and we had gone back and forth, I went back to visit him a few more times. And anyway, so I gave him, I offered him 44, and then he had about $14,000 in inventory, and that was going to go with the purchase. And so technically I was buying the business for 30,000 because he was giving me the inventory to go with
beautiful.
it. Yeah. So anyway, and the last time I went out to meet with him, he said, do you want to buy it? Because someone else wants to buy it. And that was when we had already been talking for about a month, and I told him yes. And he said the other guy had actually offered him 56,000 for it. But he said, I like you, and I think you're going to do a good job, and I'd rather sell it to you. So, and that was one thing that Sam had discussed at the initial time when I spoke to him, that, I wanted him to be my friend and my partner. And that's what he's become. I mean, we talk maybe almost 2-3 times a week now, either about the business or him just calling to see how we're doing. He gave me a present for Christmas for my family. It was just, some cookies and some stuff, but it's still the thought, right? That counts. And that he meant to do something nice. So, so that's what, I gave him a 3 multiple. And the thing that I really liked about the business is that there were things that I could do right away to automate it. For example, he would open each box that he got from the manufacturer and put in his warranty in there. And I was just able to quickly put it up on Shopify and add that or it's not even a document, it's just an app that you can add to Shopify. And now that collects all the warranties. I don't touch them. They're not mailed to me. He's like 64 years old. So, when I told him I can just send out automatic emails, I don't have to send out one by one. He's like, well, I don't know how you're going to do that, but if you can do it, well, good for you.
It's like, that sounds like some kind of witchery you're talking about, man.
Yeah, but just little things like that, where, Shopify automates all of your shipments, right? All you do is hit print, and then it prints the label. That's really all I do. I after someone orders online, I print it, and then I stick it to the box, and that's all I need to do. Where he was taking each box, going to UPS, filling out the forms. I mean, this was taking a lot of his time, so he was spending a lot of time with that. And again, those were just some of the things that I could easily automate.
You also increase the
Ernesto?
income. Go ahead, Sam. What were you about to say?
Oh, I was just going to ask him about the final deal structure.
Yeah,
we talked about
we got to talk
44,000.
about the deal structure.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I kind of
Yeah.
slipped over. So I said, I'll pay you. I'll give you the money in the first 3 months for the inventory. And again, Ace, what you've preached in the past, and Sam, it's all about the deal structure, right? Because one thing that's funny, and I tell other people when they tell me about how much a business is or isn't worth. And I think you mentioned this one time, Ace. You're like, I'll pay $1 million for a business if I can pay you $1 a day. Hey, that's anyone will do that, right? If it's making enough money, I'll pay you $1 a day, and I'll give you $1 million for your business. But but a business that's worth a lot less, even if it's $200,000, you don't want to pay cash for that. It's all about the deal structure. So. Anyway, so I said, okay, so I'm going to get all the inventory. I'm going to pay him for that inventory. And I gave him, and so we said, okay, the first 6,000, I can give it to you after the 30 days. And the next 6,000, I'll give to you after 60 days after that, which should be 90 days. So, I knew, because I was doing the calculations, if it was bringing in the about 5,500 in sales, I wasn't paying for that. It would just bring me the money, and that's what it did. Yeah. So the money was already
that first month. You made 5,500 because you had the inventory.
Yeah, I actually made a little bit more, right? But yeah, I had it all in there already.
What did you end up making that first month?
It was just almost 6,000, but it wasn't quite 6,000.
That's beautiful. So, so basically the business bought itself. You didn't pay anything down, and then your first payment or installment, the business is paying for it. And so that, sir, is a beautiful thing. And really the biggest point of all of this is, number one, you had the patience, you did the work. It was an off-market deal. These kind of deals don't happen with brokers. That's one of the questions I get all the time. It's like, well, how can you get this kind of deal done? Brokers won't allow. It's of course not. The broker isn't motivated to put a deal together like this. And then getting with that person, I think people also underestimate that it's not just deal structures. It's communicating, with understanding the seller, and then communicating with that seller the deal structure based on where that seller sees the value. And so in this case, that seller sees hey, I'm giving you 14 grand, dude. I'm literally just giving you that in addition to a business. And so you've got to be able to communicate and sell that, put together the deal, and then communicate that deal in a way that makes that seller happy. I thought it was absolutely a thing of beauty.
Yes. That's the thing is that this is, it's an art. It really is an art. And it's a philosophical mindset. It's a mindset and an art. And creative negotiating, creative deal structure like Ernesto did is like a dance. It's beautiful. Yeah. So, when you see it unfold, Ernesto was able to take over this business. One, he was able to help this older gentleman. He took it off of his hands and he gave him some income throughout the year, right? Yeah. He wasn't able to operate it anymore. His mother was sick. And so, just like a true deal maker, everybody walked away from the table happy. And so that's what it's all about. You do the dance so that everybody can leave the table happy. Is that a perfect?
Absolutely. Yeah. I love it. And in that same vein, I had an old member who contacted me and was talking to a guy who is older, and this comes up when we're talking to folks, and it wanted to do a deal structure where it was just a consulting for equity. And when you get to those older folks, some deal structures aren't the right thing for them. You know what I mean? And I think that's a part of this. That's a part of like going through our process where it's not just, oh, I'm going to get this guy and have them do some kind of deal where the upside is in 5 years, but they're 75. And it's like, yeah, like that, in that case, you know, you can't do the kind of deal structure that may make sense for the person that's 40 years old and, you know, has that 10-year time horizon to get the benefit of something like a consulting for equity deal where no money's paid up. You know, so I think that all of those things have to be taken into consideration. And that's why I'm proud of what we do. It's not just go in and get as much as you can from a person. It's like, man, like, okay, I see the situation, just like you said, Ernesto. I see the situation he's in. Let me build a deal that is great for me, but is also built around what he needs and make this as easy as possible. And I think that other people that don't know what they're doing and are inexperienced can go in and make the situation tougher for the people instead of coming in and making it an opportunity that is truly win-win. So
it's all about
that's the episode. I'll let you sign us off, Sam.
Okay, everybody, remember, deal making is all about the relationships. It's all about your network. It's caring for people. It's loving people. It's helping people, and it's profiting as well. And you can do all those things at the same time. So thanks for listening to Dealmakers Institute. Click the link below to join Dealmakers Institute, our program, or our two-year mentorship program. We can't wait to have you as part, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks,
Great,
guys.
thanks.
Thanks, Ernesto.
Yeah, thank you.